being festive.
I might be.
Oh, it might be. Hey, listen, it's the time of the year to be festive. So if
It
there's
is.
any time to be festive, it is currently now. Oh, good. We're live. Let's do some chaotic good. Intro that I can never hear. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Chaotic Good Sports. Appreciate you tuning in. I'm Tom Grossi, and hey, folks, we got a phenomenal guest tonight. We're going to get right into it, but before we do, as always, we got to shout out the fundraiser that we are raising money for, an awesome organization. It is Riley Children's Foundation, which goes to support pediatric healthcare in Indiana. They do phenomenal work. They're at 98% on Charity Navigator, have a 4-star rating, so highly recommend checking them out. And also, if you are watching this later and it's not live, this fundraiser will be open until next Monday. And so, with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, my guest, she has been blowing up on the wrestling sphere. You see her everywhere. The signs are all over Monday Night Raw. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, it's Weezy Blonde.
Hey.
Let's go. Let's go. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate the heck out of you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Listen, we said this before the show. Are you anticipating a call from the Lions to play on the defensive line or in the secondary? And has that call come in yet?
I'm waiting. I'm definitely waiting. I'm ready to lace up my cleats at any point. I volunteer as tribute. I can help. I really think I can help at this point.
I mean, at this point, when it seems like just everybody's going down, you just sometimes you got to throw yourself in harm's way and say, I'm going to take one for my team, try to get us the chip, and I will lay myself down and try to trip a 300-pound athlete.
I'll make that sacrifice. Like I said, I'm scrappy. I can figure it out. I'm small. I can weave in between. I can trip. That's the least I can do. I can jump on someone's back.
What is that?
It won't call anything on me.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, it's fine. It's fine. No one's even going to notice. It's all good. When it comes to the Lions, what is that kind of been like? How long have you been a fan, and what has that feeling been as experiencing kind of the lows of the Lions history and, you know, things maybe not working out so well to now the highs these past couple seasons and being one of the best teams in the NFL?
Surreal. There's such a thing, I think, as having PTSD when it comes to this, because it keeps going and you're waiting, you know, mid-game at every point, like, even before, like the week before a game at this point, people are like, oh, are you excited? Or how do you think this is going to go? And I think so many people expect you to be like, yeah, we got this. And
Sure.
I think most of us are like, no, you know, I'm going to hang out and, like, you know, it could go either way. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen. But with the history of everything, it feels like a fever dream, I think, is the best way to put it. My fandom is really all over the place. I live in Northern Indiana, and if anyone knows anything about the placement of Northern Indiana, we're smack dab in the middle of all of the fandoms. So no one messes with anything that's south. You're either a Bears fan, you're a Lions fan, or you're a Packers fan. There's very few Vikings fans. And so you just kind of pick where you want to go. So in my particular area, everyone is everything. There are very few Lions fans. I became a Lions fan because my grandfather worked for Studebaker in South Bend. And when they shut down, he worked in Detroit. And so we always rooted for the underdog. That's who we picked, even though the Bears are kind of underdog too, but we don't really claim them.
Yeah, no.
And that's how it happened with me. So
okay, all right. So you know what? I will say I've heard a lot of origin stories, you know, throughout the near 10 years of doing this, and that's a good one. Usually it is like some kind of like familial hand down or some tradition. But listen, I said this about Lions fans all the time. Like, I respect the dedication to a team, especially when it is the worst of the worst, when you're not winning a single game in an entire season, when the Packers are going, if we lose in the divisional round this year, it will be a failure of a season. And just to have like that juxtaposition between like, oh man, this success that is enduring to not so much success, it's just a whole lot of respect to the fan base. So I have to imagine it's been a crazy couple of years just being able to even experience, hell, going to the NFC Championship last year.
Oh my God. I bought it's so people are like, you're buying like the playoff like division stuff. I'm like, yes, I am.
That's how you know.
I bought all of it immediately. I was like, just the North. I'm like, yep, I'm buying all of it. And I've they've made fun of me. I don't care. I don't
No,
care.
because, right, it's like, you know, and as a Packers fan, 100% will poke fun about hanging the banner and all that great stuff. But at the same time, when I was a kid, I was like, oh my, I could get my hand on any Packers stuff. I was like, oh, I gotta try. So NFC North Division champs, sure, whatever. Conference
Anything
champions,
that's
sure,
champ,
whatever. I don't care.
Champ on it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
They
This might
can't
be
take it away from you then and just be like, hey, this one year, look, it says champion on it. Say Super Bowl? No, but maybe at one point. This is the stepping stone.
It just had playoffs on it, and I was like, done. I'm buying it.
It's so funny you bring that up too about like that anticipation that something is going to go wrong, because that's really just like beaten into your DNA. I mean, like even as a pack, like I always explain this when it comes to fandom, it's just different hurts, right? So like when we play the 49ers or even recently the Seahawks, the amount of anxiety, even though the 49ers Seahawks are not like the greatest teams this year, is like, okay, but there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of trauma there. So anytime we're going to play,
I think a lot of people have been humbled in a way that they haven't been before. And people are kind of, you're such a nice Packers fan. I don't deal with a lot of nice Packers fans at all. You guys are really ruthless. But I feel like they've toned down majorly the last couple of seasons, especially. And it's been really nice. Like you guys are really like, oh, I don't know. Like maybe we're gonna calm down. Bears fans, not so much. Hard. They come in hard with no reason to come in hard whatsoever. Like unapologetically confident for no reason.
They try so hard, Weezy. They try so hard. And again, it's at this point, like Bears fans are in my mentions every single offseason. This is the time. No, this time, this quarterback is going to be the guy. No. This head coach is going to be the guy that does it this time. Oh, no, these wide receivers. And they're like, what do you think about that? And all I have to do is wait. That's it. And waiting and being patient has given me more ammunition than I could possibly ask for, because I watched a Bears game last night. I don't even have to say a word because the product just speaks for itself. That's it. You did leave off the Vikings, though. I'm curious, what has your experience been with Vikings fans? Because I found they were maybe the first ones last year that jumped on of like, hey, the Lions are doing well. And while you were getting lots of like pats on the head, Vikings fans are like, no, we hate them. Like, we want them to do poorly.
I haven't had that experience with them.
Really? Okay.
No, the only person I don't have to deal with a lot of them. Not a lot of them come to Detroit, honestly. Not a lot of them come through like my chat or anything like that. The only one that I deal with, her name is Shayna Basler. You know, she's the Queen of Spain.
Oh, Shayna Basler is a Vikings fan?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Shayna Basler. No!
Ride or die Vikings fan. Yeah. So that's our beef. That's our feud. She's the only one I know. And yeah, we talk crap, but.
Oh, man. All right. That's, damn. Such
Did I
high
really
expectations.
I'm so sorry.
Damn, no, it's just, it's fine. It's fine. Just gotta separate the artist from the art. You know, that's it. When it comes to like how things have been going in the wrestling sphere, because like listening to some interviews that you've been on, you've been a diehard wrestling fan for a while. You know, like it started like early in the childhood, and then it was funny because the whole CM Punk thing, and we'll talk about that, kind of wasn't watching during that. That's when I got back into wrestling. Kind of what kind of got you to dip your toe into the pro wrestling world? Because I feel like it's a niche thing, but at the same time is obviously a global thing. I'm curious of just like what got you started on that journey that will eventually lead you to where you are today.
The initial thing, so I watched when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My dad and I watched in late 90s, early 2000s. And then I did the typical thing that a lot of kids do, especially girls. You know, I started high school and I stopped watching because none of my friends did. Didn't have anyone to talk to about it. And I just got tired of defending it. So went through high school, college, didn't watch anymore. I would check in every now and then. Yeah. I knew of CM Punk. I knew what he was doing. When Edge had to retire, those kinds of things I clued in on. And then I didn't come back until it was around 2015. And it was when Seth Rollins turned on the Shield.
Oh boy. Okay.
That was really what brought me back. And because that happened in Indianapolis too. And then, I don't know, I just started watching a little more religiously, a little more. And there was goofy stuff and there was cool stuff. And they had NXT that came on. And I always liken it to, I tell people I am a theater kid. I'm a theater kid through and through. I'm also an athlete. So it just combines all of the things that I really like into one, and there's nothing else like it. So
No.
and then you get older and you're like, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I'm going to watch this. My husband, I think, had been with me. We'd been together, I think, like 3 or 4 years at that point, had no idea that I liked wrestling. He came home one night. He worked nights. He came home and I was watching wrestling. I was watching like Friday Night SmackDown. And he was like, are you watching wrestling? Like, what are you doing?
Wrestling.
And he calls it wrestling. I was like, yeah, I'm watching the wrestling. And
It's truly awesome because you brought up a couple of things. Like, yeah, like as a kid, the entry was like pretty low, right? Like I was watching the old SummerSlams when there was 2 Undertakers, right? And as like a little kid, I was just like, I hope the good Undertaker wins. And like, and that captured me immediately. Like I was a Bret the Hitman Hart fan and also a Shawn Michaels fan. So in 1997, that was a rough time for me.
that was really rough.
I loved them both. I just loved wrestling. And it's similar because I feel like DX got super popular, right? And like the Monday Night Wars and all that great stuff. And then I kind of just, got away from it a little bit later in high school, definitely in like the college era. And I started getting back to it when Chris Jericho actually came back. It was like the Break the Code Y2J, like countdown, whole 9 yards. Jumped back. He was like feuding with Orton. And then I was like, all right, kind of paying attention. And then the pipe bomb happened from Punk, and I was like, oh, this is different. And from there, I was like, yup. I was like watching through the static, like on pay-per-view, like watching Money in the Bank going against John Cena because I did not have enough money to afford a pay-per-view.
And like $50 for pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. You can, like $50 is a lot of money for a pay-per-view, and especially back then, I was like, there's no shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in terms of, you mentioned how unique wrestling is, that it combines like 2 of your passions, right? Like that theater kid element and also the athleticism. Today, like as you watch the current product, and whether that's WWE, AEW, TNA, New Japan, what have you, what kind of are you gravitated towards? Because the great thing about wrestling, and this is why I don't subscribe to any of the tribalism nonsense, is I love it. Wrestling.
Yes. Thank you.
I love wrestling. I don't care if it's an AEW show. I don't care if it's a WWE show. I'll go to TNA. I'll go to ROH. I'll go to, you know what I mean? Like, I'll go to all because I just like wrestling. So where are you at in terms of like, if you are planning a perfect wrestling event, is it about the matches? Is it about the storyline? Is it sometimes just the crowd, which can elevate it significantly? Where are you drawn to kind of now, what you prefer in your wrestling product?
I feel like you have, if you're mentioning those 3 things, I feel like you have to have the trifecta of all of it. I almost need all elements involved for me to really be like in it. I think like the first thing that comes to my mind right now in most recent time is Drew McIntyre and CM Punk that had the Hell in a Cell match. Like I feel every element was in play with that. And so that was, I think the minute that it ended, I just said, that's my favorite match this entire year. That's one of probably my top 5 of all time now, just because I was so invested in what was happening. And I even had fun with it, as people have a hard time doing so with what I do watch along streams. So I'm watching the show and I'm commentating on it and we're having fun. It's like having a bunch of people in one room watching the same show. And the way that I talk about pro wrestling is like, it is real. I'm in character with it. I'm not going to overanalyze it. So if Drew McIntyre is coming down the ramp and he's talking crap about CM Punk and whatever, I'm going along with it. And I'm like, I can't, this guy, he just never stops. Everything's everybody else's fault. And I love Drew McIntyre. Obviously, he's a great performer.
Yeah.
So I need all of the elements involved for me to really, it could be, the physicality of it, like a great match in general. I feel like you have to have the story there in order for the match to really matter. The moves and
I feel you.
And the pin and all that. Like there is a story within the match, but also leading up to it and after.
Well, I think it's also, that's why it's so great to be a wrestling fan right now, because you mentioned, you're in high school, like growing up, and it's like, all right, maybe it's not the coolest thing in the world. And I feel like that was the tagline that WWE was pushing really hard after WrestleMania 40. They were like, wrestling is cool again. And we're like, yeah, like this is amazing, because like so many people watched. I mean, I had the opportunity to go to WrestleMania. Like, it was amazing.
Did you really?
I brought my dad. He brought me to WrestleMania. We drove from New York. we drove from New York to Detroit, actually, for WrestleMania 23. It was the Battle of the Billionaires. It was Shawn Michaels and John Cena, Batista Taker.
That's hilarious.
And we were behind the stage, obstructed view, like nosebleed. And the following year, we drove back down to Florida to go see WrestleMania 24. So that was Taker Edge in that main event. And I was like, all right, if there gets to a point where I can take my dad. So last year, or this past year, I took him to WrestleMania 4. We sat second row. I was like, all right, here you go. Like, this is what it's for. And I whipped out my phone and I recorded like the last like 10 minutes of Mania and like the craziness that was going on. I put that on YouTube and it was the highest viewed video I ever had. I've been doing this for like 10 years, all football content and the wrestling. So I get it. Like it became cool, or at least it was perceived as cool, you know, post WrestleMania 40 significantly.
It rocked us too. Cause I mean, we, as far as like being just a wrestling creator, I'd been doing it in a year and a half before Mania. And all of the clips from all of that, I mean, again, the highest of anything we've ever had viewed. And it was just this influx of people asking questions and people that had watched it for the first time. And there were other people recording their reactions at home of like their significant other reacting to just The Undertaker appearing in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
And I haven't experienced anything like that in wrestling in such a long time that the buzz of it was so exciting that I was like, oh, this is going to be a great year. And now I'm still writing it, and it's still getting better and better and better. And there's still more to come. And it's just a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah. And you know, that's the thing too. It could get overwhelming at times, but like there literally is no bye week. There is no off season. Like they plug that too, but it legitimately is like week in and week out. It's just, it's wrestling all the time. And you know, when there's multiple shows for multiple brands, you're like, okay, this is a lot of wrestling. Like you were mentioning NXT back in the day, like the black and gold. Oh man, like that was.
Oh, it's good.
We were eating good back then. That was some good wrestling. And like now it's just, you have so many options and the accessibility to wrestling. And that's, again, you have, of course, like the big promotions, but even in terms of just the indie shows and just the accessibility of being able to, hey, there's a wrestling show that's 20 minutes away from me for $15. I can go sit 5 rows away from the ring and go see, you know, an indie show that's going to be
some of the best things you've ever seen. To the Indian house shows are fun. Those are real fun ones. If you get to go to some of the better indie promotions, those are underrated because it's lawless. They can do whatever they want to do.
No TV.
It's awesome.
By the way, folks, if you're just tuning in, this is It's Weezy Blonde. In the 15 minutes we've been talking, we have already raised over $630 for pediatric healthcare. Let's go. 100% of the proceeds going directly to Riley Children's Foundation. They provide pediatric care to the children of Indiana. In terms of where you're at in your career, you talked about, hey, maybe wrestling wasn't so cool. Don't really have anybody to talk about it. And now you have a platform where you get to talk about wrestling all the time. What prompts that decision, which is a weary one? What prompts that decision to go, I am going to sit in front of a camera, say hello to the internet, which can be a challenging place at times, and decide to get into content creation and turn like this passion into just a different passion?
I don't know how I got here.
I blinked. I turned around.
You know, so when I started on TikTok. I was just making TikToks. It wasn't necessarily wrestling related, but I had made just a couple little TikToks hinting that I was a wrestling fan. I think I showed off one of my New Day shirts or something like that. And people started asking me wrestling questions because nobody believed me that I was a wrestling fan. I said, oh, I'll show you.
Which, by the way, is the worst thing ever. Like, it's just be like, well, how much do you do in 1986? What was the main event in November? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The things that I have been quizzed on, it's impossible to know everything. It's just too extensive. There's too much. There's too much.
Yeah.
The decision to really go with it, I just had other friends around me that were doing the same thing. When I was a teenager, I was like the first round of YouTubers that I watched. You know, there was 06, 07, 08. So I loved vloggers. I loved the first creators. I always wanted to be one and I couldn't do it. And so it kind of felt like I got to live a little bit of a dream. So I was like, let's give it a shot. Like people listen to me. I don't know why. Let's run with it. And then it just kept snowballing into something else and then something else. Yep. And then the the clips started happening. We started doing the reaction clips, and I can't even put into words how wild it is that it's a thing and that it happened. And I still struggle coming to terms with it because I'm just a girl. I just live in northern Indiana, and
Yeah.
I still do hair 2 days a week. I'm still a hairstylist. I was a full-time hairstylist at the start of all of this.
Yeah.
I wanted there to be more voices like mine, I think is what it really comes down to. I just wanted there to be more people like me being out there being like, hey, you don't have to take it that seriously. If you do,
Sure.
it's fine. But we just want to have a good time. We just want to like wrestling. It's okay to like wrestling. It's cool to like wrestling. I love going to shows and seeing little girls that have their title belts and they're screaming. It's my favorite. I love kids at shows, but it's my favorite thing to see little girls. And there's so many more of them than when I was a kid. I love it.
It's so great too, because like going to live events, and I think especially in like the 90s and early 2000s, I think there was this perception of like wrestling crowds and like wrestling fans, right? And I don't think the internet has helped that, because I think you have like a very vocal minority of fans who can be toxic, who can be the internet wrestling community who are going to trash every little thing and take it. I know, crazy,
What
right?
are you talking about?
I know, never seen it happen. But
We're
like
lovely.
you go to wrestling shows, and like my girlfriend got into wrestling, who is in love with wrestling now, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And the diversity that's there within a wrestling crowd, whether it's age, background, demographic, is amazing. And like people coming together and being part of a crowd. And it's like you mentioned, obviously as a diehard football fan, like, yeah, like NFL games are cool, got hockey games, NBA games, but being in a wrestling crowd that is like really into it, you legitimately like have an impact on the product like that's in front of you. And it just enhances it for everybody, right? For as a viewer and also as a performer, because nobody wants to wrestle in front of a dead crowd. So to be a part of that, I mean, yeah, the more people that can have that experience and to be showcased of like, hey, wrestling doesn't look like one type of person, is just going to be an overall benefit for the entire industry.
Well, and being in a crowd too, if you give the energy and other people around you see that you're giving the energy, they're going to be a lot more comfortable.
Yep.
Because people get scared. They get scared to get excited and to yell. It's a very different experience. And I've made this comparison before on stream. It's very different than going to an NFL game. When I go to an NFL game, it don't matter. It don't matter where you're sitting. Everybody is up. It is no one cares. No one has any thought about what anyone thinks about them. They're doing their thing. Wrestling shows, WWE shows, especially like just a Monday or a Friday, it's a little more tame. There's some people there that aren't totally sure. They either got brought with a friend, like they're afraid to cheer, they're afraid to look silly, and I'm like, nah, no, like let's go, like boo, like, and I'll tell
elbows,
like this person, like no, you put your thumb down right in his face, like no, let's do it, and it's the best. You got to be engaging with it.
Exactly. I mean, that's what the whole point is about. Because again, if you don't find wrestling fun, what's the point of watching wrestling, right? Like you can watch it for like the athletic ability, and you're like, oh yeah, and like be in awe of that. And there's 100% some wrestlers I was like, I just don't know how the body did that. And like, I'm in awe of the performer.
Ivar, yeah,
right. Like, I mean, dude, holy crap!
How do you do that?
There in absolute insanity. And I think it's crazy because as things have like progressed for you, I want to go back a little bit. And I know it is your header on some of your social media. What was it like the first time for this business / industry that you have loved, that you have decided to elevate your fandom, when you saw a sign like at a wrestling show that had your name on it? I can only imagine that feeling. Like that has to be one of the most surreal, inspiring, wholesome, emotional moments. What was that like for you? Like, were you streaming? Was that something that somebody sent to you to see like your name like on a broadcast?
I was live. So it had happened. It had happened quite a few. I can't remember the first one. The first two, I think, they were smaller signs, and they were viewers of mine.
Yeah.
And we had clocked them, and oh my gosh, that's so funny. Like I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, because it was a joke for a while. It was a joke of like, oh, I'm gonna go with the sign with my name.
Yeah.
And production takes them from them.
Yes.
So, you get to see it as like, there it is, and then they get taken away. So the first big one is the header on all of mine. It was a father and son duo. They emailed me before they were going. They told me where they were sitting, and they made a beautiful pink sign of my logo at that time. It was gigantic, and they were center hard cam, like first row up in the lower bowl. And the the Rock came out. I don't even remember. I don't feel like he was supposed to, or it was rumored he was. I can't remember if that was when he was there for College Game Day. But he came out, and so the Rock is in the middle of the ring. I had already seen my sign. I'm already panicking because of the sign, and then the Rock shows up, and I'm sweating, and I'm like, what? And then the Rock's in the ring, and my sign is right behind him, and I'm just, and you could tell, once you've been watching for a while, you kind of notice what camera's trying to do. They're like, let's get away from
Yeah.
Get away from that. They're just like the stupid sign is so big. It's like
screenshot.
Out of here. Does everybody get it now? And then they did take it from them. But it's a surreal feeling because again, I say it. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. I'm glad that people like watching along with me. It makes me feel really good, but the fact that someone would put in the effort to make a sign for me is pretty wild.
And that's what it comes down to, right? Like when that kind of stuff so someone brought to Raw, actually, they sent it here, I signed it. They did like Grossi to 1 million subs, and that was on a Raw show. And I was like, oh my God, like that's amazing because I haven't made wrestling my job, right? Like I'll stream every now and then, and obviously I'm still watching the product and still engaged with the product. But every time I'm viewing that, it's as a fan. Right, 100%. And that's how I treat this as well, because otherwise, again, you and I were talking about this before. If you don't love it, you ain't doing it. And
it's very much I feel like it's very much wrestling fandom, though. They're ride or dies.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you're a wrestling creator or not. It's just our culture. Like, I'll make a sign for you.
Yeah.
Tom Grossi.
You're like, what? But that's why wrestling fans can be incredible. I mean, this is just fandom as a whole. Like fandom for any like sport industry, I think it can be so wholesome and so pure because if they see that authenticity, they see like, oh, you're a genuine fan. It's exactly like you said. Like, yeah, we're gonna ride or die with you.
Yeah.
Because you're one of us, and that, like I said it the entire time. Whether it's folks that are taking the time either to watch the content, whether it's folks who are taking the time to make signs or what have you, or to come out or to donate to fundraisers, there's so many different ways you can spend your time. There's so many different things that can grab your attention. So the fact that you're actively choosing to either one, spend some of your attention with us, or two, to go the extra mile and like hold up a sign or advocate or to fundraise or what have you, it's just it's an awesome feeling because then it feels like it's something a little bit beyond you. Did you kind of like get that feeling a little bit like when seeing signs pop up with your name on it at various shows?
Yes, definitely. Because it's like, it's a perfect way to put it, of just being beyond me. Like, I know that this is what I do. And we're in this together, and like, we're bros, and, we watch wrestling together, and you support what I do, but then you're also out there at the actual show that we're watching. Yeah. It's almost like a WrestleCeption. You're watching it, and they're there with the sign, and it's like, where are the lines blurred?
Well, it's also fun because like the way that you do content, you're talking about like the watch along. I feel like it's also such a great way to be introduced to the business, right? Mm-hmm. And like maybe there's that trepidation of I don't know a lot about wrestling, and I'm a little nervous / I don't know even what questions to ask, right? You mentioned Seth Rollins and The Shield. So like my girlfriend got into it like within the last 2 or 3 years, she's gotten into wrestling. Doesn't have any of that background or anything like that. Like we watched all the old Okada Omega matches recently this year because we were just like, oh yeah, we're just going to binge through these and they're going to be great. And like catching that back up. But wrestling is a daunting thing to get into because there is decades upon decades of history.
So much. It is overwhelming. And people, they get intimidated. And like we had talked earlier about how nice the community can be. Yeah. There are jerks out there. Sure. It's like the superiority complex of somebody that has been doing something for a long time. And they're like, oh, how dare you? You don't
gatekeeping.
Know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is gatekeeping. But I get so many people in my streams that do ask those questions. I don't know things. And there's things that I don't know. And so it's nice to be able to have a community and go to a place to be like, I don't remember what happened there. I have a really terrible memory, first of all. I can be somewhere. I went to SummerSlam and I remember I forgot something on stream. I was like, who won that match? And like, Weezy, you were there.
You were there. Like, that doesn't mean I was there.
Doesn't mean I've out of body experience. But to be able to just have someone calmly explain to you, be like, oh, well, this happens for this reason. It's why I try not to get mad at people when they ask me, hey, you watched wrestling? Because the first thing a lot of the time is, oh, well, isn't that fake? Isn't it fake? Like, and you just be like, well, I don't use the word fake, but yes and no. Like, you can't really focus on that part. I know that that's what we've done, but think of it as entertainment. Think of it as you watching a television show, and sometimes you can guess what's going to happen at the end. It's still cool. It's still an art. It's either for you or it's not. But if it's not, you don't have to trash it.
No, exactly. Like, you don't like something, there's a million other things, right?
And you like, it's okay.
And I have found that, like, that's with wrestling. Again, there's so many different avenues of which you can approach it, right? The suspension of disbelief is, like, pretty important, just like any movie or TV show. Yes. But even if you can't fully get there, because it's like you said, you know, when you're trying to put together, like, a great match, you want the crowd to be in it, you want the story to be really good, and you want, of course, the match to be great as well. And I feel like when you're trying to approach a wrestling match, there's folks who will watch it and go, wow, like those two athletes who just went for 45 minutes. Like, that's crazy endurance. That's just like crazy what the human body can do, and appreciate it for what it is. Or you could say, wow, the way that they engage the crowd and just the mic work, or like maybe they cut a promo right before, or just the way that every single reaction is eliciting something from the crowd. That's really impressive, right? Or it is the story of like, I'm so invested. It's Cody Rhodes finishing the story, you know, 2 years from now. And that goes back to his dad and Dusty and all that. And I think that regardless of what kind of fan you are, whether you want all those things, enjoy all those things, or just like piecing it together, because not every match and not every show is going to be amazing, but there's something to pull away from it and go like, yeah, this is what I'm a fan of.
Yes. Every time. I can do it every show. I can do it every show that I watch. I can pick one thing. I can pick a couple things or out of a match. It's just honing in on that part that you really enjoy and love. And that's not to say, I always tell people, it's not to say you can't be critical. There's absolutely a time to be critical of things. You could not like things. I don't like things all the time, but it's just a way to do it. It's just a way to do it. It's way more fun if you're just like, that was kind of sucky. Next, like, it just don't, you know, focus on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, the show's so bad now because a segment didn't go well. It's okay.
It's ruined everything.
I'm never watching again. By the way,
WWE again.
Anonymous just donated $300. We have surpassed our goal. We have raised over $1,000 already. Appreciate the hell out of you. 100% going to Riley Children's Foundation. It's a pediatric healthcare within Indiana. Phenomenal work they do. You go check them out on Charity Navigator. So thank you very much to everyone who has donated. It is incredibly generous and kind of you. While you're going through this kind of upward, you know, trajectory in your content creation career, you mentioned working at the salon, and I know that that was like a big part of things like because you were trying to balance that, right? What has that work-life balance been like? Because as someone who was a teacher for 6 years and was doing this for 6 years before they then decided, said, okay, like I'm going to try now, you know, so 3 out of the 9 years I've done this, only 3 of them have been just this. What has that been like with you? Because like that is such a challenging thing to try and navigate, not only just like personally and burnout and all that, but it is of just knowing when, okay, it is time to put a little bit more energy into this, or take a step back from this, or like, all right, I need to kind of get my head right. And you're very vocal about that, which I super appreciate, because I feel like that is something. It's really awesome to see, because I'm
trying to cut back on the vocalness of it. I'm like, I need to stop. But I can't help it. It's just who I am as a person.
But that's that genuine aspect of it, right? Because otherwise, I think that there's this anticipation of like, okay, if you are doing this, Weezy, why aren't you streaming NXT? Because I'm at my other job. Right? That's why.
I just have to, because people are, I don't ever want to talk negatively about people online, but sometimes I use the word like chronically online of just like they forget. Sure. Like they just forget that sometimes the people that they see online are people. Like they are humans,
people
we be people, and stuff happens. Yeah. And the balance of it it's just a never ending learning curve. It could be a month where I think I have it, and then something else happens and it throws me off. And that's kind of been the theme of this entire year. I
Yeah.
never ever thought had been doing my job for 10 years. I had never thought that I was going to do anything else. So having to learn, like being a hairstylist, you have your schedule, you
Yeah.
stand in front of the same person, you hopefully don't run behind, and then you just bounce through that all day and then you're done.
Yep.
As long as everything goes correctly. There's planning, there's scheduling, there's dealing with other people, there's dealing with other personalities, there's traveling.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to do than I've ever had to do. So it's just been a learning curve, and not getting overwhelmed with it and rolling with it and giving yourself grace if it doesn't go exactly the way that you think it will. And also knowing your limits too of what you're
Sure.
capable of and what you're not. I have people around me that do the same thing that I do. So a lot of the time, the audience expects me to do the exact same thing that such and such is doing, or
Sure.
hold the same schedule. And I can't release a YouTube video every day. I cannot stream every day.
Yeah.
Like we talked earlier, if you wanted to stream wrestling,
Sure.
you'd stream every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yep.
Monday, Tuesday NXT, Wednesday Dynamite, Thursday TNA, Friday SmackDown, and then you could stay on for what is it? Collision, and then Saturday. Like you could keep going. You would never stop.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
So how do you, because like that's a great point. Like how have you found navigating that divide, right? Because if you're talking about, all right, we're working at the salon now, because you scaled back, right?
Did.
From when you were working at the salon, like what went into that decision? Because that is terrifying, right? Like I left teaching and was like, okay, goodbye pension, goodbye retirement plan, goodbye health benefits, and
So
hi YouTube, like horrifying, right?
You had that. So that being a hairstylist, I made that decision when I was 18, 19. I did not think, granted, I'm married, so hey, insurance, but I did not get benefits or anything like that for being a hairstylist. So that part was easy. There is no PTO, there is no sick time, there's no benefits or anything. The hardest part is that you have a clientele and people that you've created a relationship with over the last 10 years
that rely on you,
that are either going to have to find somebody else or learn to be a little more flexible with you, and they're not going to be happy with you.
Yeah.
Mine were very gracious. Most people were very, very gracious about it. And I'm also still not really adhering to it, because I'll be like, yeah, I'll come in on Friday and move your extensions up. It's fine. And then I get behind on recording. So I'm still so new. I'm still green, man.
That's it.
Warning. I'm trying to figure it out.
That's it. We're still at the development center. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, like that, to make that decision, right? Because I'm sure, I mean, that's like talking to the husband and be like, all right, can we make this work? And like, this is, because that's a lifestyle change to say like, okay, we're going away from something that is consistent. That's something, like you said, that you've been doing now for years and years. Was that a daunting task to even make that choice of saying, hey, I'm going to cut back on this a little bit? I know you can kind of be flexible with it, but was it kind of challenging to go, okay, this is now requiring more time and more energy, and I want to put more time and more energy into this, as opposed to, you know, the salon, which you still like, obviously, you're still doing it, right? You still enjoy it, but it's just different compartments that you're giving energy to.
It wasn't, I don't feel like it was a difficult because I didn't feel like it was the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. I really felt like, no, I can do this. I want to do this. I'm good at this. I just felt bad for the other career in life that I had. My husband was one of the first people. I think he might have approached me about it first and just said, hey, I think maybe you should maybe do this.
We love supportive significant others here.
So great. It makes me cry. And then there was another time where I think I said the same thing, where I just was like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? And he just said, I think it would be silly if you didn't keep trying. And so I just kept with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that. I mean, first of all, just to have somebody that you can lean on for that, who knows you, right? It's just like, hey, like, I'm a person. And just to have that dynamic and that relationship of being together for so long, because I feel like that can cause complications in terms of like, hey, there's your work life, then there's your personal life, then there's now like your online life, like, and now there's like, all right, we're just like separating the same. And again, if you're just the same person all along, it's super easy. But there are decisions that have to be made that do affect other people. So that's phenomenal that you have somebody that you can say, hey, yeah, like go for this. Like
we had that conversation at TwitchCon. A few of us did. There's like 3 of us that are pretty close, and we all are married or have significant others. I think both of them are like on the verge of being married. But we said, you know, you have to be, if you're in a relationship, you have to be with a specific kind of person that understands this, because it is different. It is okay with me being in my office in the evening and working until I go to bed during the week, and having to know how to make that time for your relationship. You have to know where the line is and how to make it work. And if you want to, you will. But I think some people do struggle with it.
Yeah, I mean, because it's work, right? And it's just like, okay, there's this many hours in a day. What are you going to give your time and energy to?
Yeah. Like, I'm not sitting here playing video games for my leisure. I'm working. You know?
People add like, did you play a stupid video game? I'm like, I am years behind on video games.
Who has time to play video games?
Love video games. Such a great de-stressor. Wonderful. Yeah, I play Slay the Spire right now for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, okay, I got like 5 minutes. Okay, cool. Now that's about it for right now. Yeah, and it's just it's challenging, but like you said, you find that you love it and you want to spend your time doing it. And I think like to turn your passion into a line of work, there's a line where you can go, oh, I don't love this anymore, and I'm just doing this for work. What is your view kind of like on wrestling? Because I'm sure there's times where you didn't want to stream or didn't want to make a video or what have you. But at what point are you like, hey, no, like I'm either going to one step away from this and not do this? And is there any guilt associated with that? Or 2, I'm going to have to rethink how I'm perceiving wrestling and this gig, because yeah, burnout is a thing.
That's a really good question.
Thank you. I wrote it myself.
That's a really good one.
Didn't write it.
Because I've experienced all of it.
Yeah.
There is a level of guilt when you've made it your job, especially. And you know, okay, if I miss this episode, I have to catch up on this, and then I'm not doing this.
Yep.
And then there's all these people that, you know, constantly ask me daily, are you streaming this? Are you streaming this? Are you streaming this? So there's the element of not only not doing the thing that you feel like you should be doing, but letting people down.
Yeah.
The burnout of it, though, is a hard thing. You have to know. I think for me, understanding that I didn't have to do everything. I can be in the space.
There you go.
And I don't have to consume or report on literally every single thing that happens. So for me, it was cutting out NXT. I couldn't do it. Their PLEs are on Sunday nights. That's my date night. That's my night where I don't mess with the internet really at all. I can't give it up. I get to go to the bar and watch football all night. That's what I do.
Hell yeah.
Like, that's what I do on Sundays. So I'm not giving that up. Yeah. I made the mistake at one point, started streaming Lions games. Hats off to you guys, NFL streamers. You guys are great. I cannot give up I can't give up watching my Lions on my own time. I couldn't do it.
You should create boundaries. Boundaries are healthy, he says, as Tom streams everything and has not missed an upload in 5 years. But hey, I can at least pretend to practice what I preach. But yeah, like it's what you said though. It's a matter of, if I miss a game, I will never forget. There's 2 instances. One I was talking to you about before. There's 2 instances. One, I was streaming a lot of games, but it was before I was streaming every primetime game, because I've been streaming every Packers game for, good God, since like 2018. I think I've missed one. And then yeah, primetime games have been last 3 years. I haven't missed any. And then every playoff game, that's been for longer. But yeah, content 5 days a week. Haven't missed since August 2019. So
that. Oh my God, teach me.
Yeah, no, it's not a lesson you should be taught, to be
honest. Every single one of you tell me that. Every single one says, don't do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a matter of, but again, like I've told this to people for years. I've been doing the same exact thing when people were watching and people when they weren't. I remember when I was doing this and there was 2 people watching.
Yep.
And I was the same exact on air that was off air, because I love football. Like, I love wrestling. Yeah. I love football. And I want to talk about football, and I love my Packers. And so I want to talk about the Packers. And there was a time where I was deciding between streaming a Monday night game, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to do it tonight. And it was the Rams Chiefs game where it was like 50 points scored by each team. It was one of the greatest Monday Night Football games ever. And I missed it. And the guilt that I sat with just going, one, I missed out on a phenomenal football game. But yeah, 55-52. But two, oh, now I'm never going to miss a football game again.
It's so funny. Everything. It's so funny that it's a different world, but absolutely the same thing because we all do it too. Wrestling's there's been a curse where one of us has gone on vacation and something big happens. And I think somebody missed The Rock returning the first time. Like there were so many big now, especially you just never know. There's such big things that happen that you end up missing that it's like, I don't know that I should.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you can gauge it, sometimes you can't, but no, there's that fear of I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss it, right? It's just
I don't get my clip.
It's not even like the FOMO aspect of it for me, and especially now as I've streamed every primetime game, so like every bad Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, and there's been a lot. Been a lot over the years. Like I'm streaming Rams 49ers where nobody scores a touchdown, and it's not because both defenses are great. Right? Yeah, exactly. And it's not even, oh man.
And you're like, I'm streaming it. Here we go.
I'm streaming it. One, I'm never going to miss it. But two, like I mentioned the other story it was Christmas. It was Christmas night. And I think it was the Buccaneers and it was the Cardinals. And it was, we lost Weezy. Well, that's it. She's like, I don't care about your story, Tom. You brought me on and now this happens. And now she's back. So,
Hi, I don't know what happened.
The story got boring. It's fine. I kept going. In terms of, but like, I did not want to stream that game. I think it was like McCorkle. I don't know, for who was it? Who's the, oh man, I think they were the backup for the Cardinals. It's a meme. He is a meme. I'm losing his stuff, but I like, this is gonna be a terrible game. Like there's no playoff stakes, nothing like that. And I was about to go live and I was like, I really don't want to do this. And I kind of looked at myself going, I have worked my ass off for almost a decade to be able to make this my job. I am not going to complain about watching football. Thank you, McSorley. Thank you very much. Yes, Trace McSorley.
They always know. Guys love doing that. Like someone in here knows that. That's,
they know.
I never do when it comes to wrestling. I'm like, who is that guy?
Clayton Toon. Yeah, it's horrific. But like there is that perspective that sometimes needs to be had. And I feel like the longer that you're into it, you just figure out like, okay, what's important to you? Like what kind of, creator am I trying to be? What kind of, like, what stuff am I really gravitating towards? And what stuff can I leave behind and maybe not focus so much energy on? Is that what you're trying to do now? Like navigate that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like, it's a wonderful, like you said, I get to do this as a part of a job, how lucky am I that I get to do this? This is super cool. I try not to take it for granted. Sure. I try not to complain about it too much within reason. But just knowing what I can and can't do, and just kind of running with it. It's a new thing. It's new for me, especially. So I don't know.
And it's like exciting as hell. I mean, like again, because the snowball just keeps going, right? And the longer that you do this, and that's kind of like my next question for you is, at this point, I've seen you now backstage interviewing wrestlers, which is. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm so happy for you, just even as an internet stranger, just to see you have that kind of success. Because, again, you're passionate about it. It's a love of wrestling. And so to be able to connect with the people that are bringing you the thing that you love is amazing. What is that experience like when you're starting to even see behind the curtain and go, oh, man, does that just increase that level of appreciation even more? Because it's like you said, people are people, whether it's random internet trolls or it is Drew McIntyre. It's just different levels of people, and we're like, okay, where can we find that? Where can I relate to you?
It makes it so much more real to you, and we want to support it even more because in the places that I've been able to go and the things that I've been able to do, I have been welcomed with open arms by every single person that I've met, and so it makes me just want to be that much more in their corner of, okay, you're welcoming me into your world and you're allowing me to infiltrate your world. I've never stepped foot in a wrestling ring, but you're following me and you're meeting me and they're very nice to me. I got to talk to the Miz about the Browns and It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's such a cool thing to be able to do, and I'm in their corner. I'm in their corner. I get to be a part of it now, and it does up the ante for me. It's kind of a, all right, what's next? What can we do next? I'm here. I'm football being coach. I'm ready to play. I'll do whatever you want me to do.
Yeah. Right. Because then it's like, okay, wow, I didn't know if I was going to get here, but I did. So now where am I going to go from
It's so
here?
surreal. It's so surreal. I downplayed it a lot. Some of the things that I've done, I've majorly downplayed in talking to the people that put me in the position to be doing whatever I was doing,
Sure.
because I'm like, I didn't graduate college. I went to cosmetology school, and I just had a camera and a microphone, and I taught myself everything.
Yeah.
And the one particular person that works like doing like digital stuff for a living was just like, you're self-taught, perfect, great, love it.
Yeah.
You taught yourself,
Yep.
awesome, that's great. You edit all your own stuff, love it. Like every single thing I said, I'm like, okay,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah. Because
Like
I didn't
that.
know how to edit. Like, are you like the first thing? I had a crappy old camcorder with no microphone. Like, I built my lighting system. I still have pieces of it. Like, I just went to Home Depot and got PVC pipe and just like got cutters and made my own light stand because I couldn't afford lights. And I was like, okay, I took 3 years to make.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it took 3 years to make $200 doing this because I just did because I loved it and was like, okay, like I didn't take no sponsors and just continue to do it because at the end of the day, it's like what you're talking about. You're a fan, right? And like I don't overinflate my importance and significance in the world. I go, no, I'm a fan. I don't know every X's and O, just like you don't know every single historical fact about wrestling because that's not attainable. But it's also not the kind of fan you want to be. I'm the fan I want to be, right? Because I'm enjoying the product and I'm still loving the product. If there's ever a point where I'm not, well, then this is going to change because then I don't want to watch it no more.
I love that. No, I love that because literally, no, me too. I love the fan that I am, and the way that I approach things and how I do things. And when I set out to do this, I didn't set out to be, when I first started, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be backstage interviewing people or going to get to go here and do this. No, it was just kind of like, I like wrestling and I want to watch it, and I want to watch it with other people. And there was, 5 people, and then there was 20, and then there was 50, and then there was 200 and 300. And then you're like, oh, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of the question I have for you in terms of this has to be moving at an insane pace, right?
It is.
It's moving very quickly, which
Crazy.
Again, congratulations, because that's due to your hard work, which is why, you're elevating so much as you are. My question is like, have there been moments, whether it is backstage, whether it's signs, whether it's opportunities that you have gotten to kind of like sit back, pull yourself back and just reflect on, holy crap, like this is pretty insane. And are you able to do that like in the moment, or is that something you've been able to find like maybe a little bit more further removed down the line?
Both. I've been in situations where I really, stepped back and was just kind of looking and seeing what I was doing and how I had gotten there and why I was there. SummerSlam Cleveland was one of them where I really just was taking it in and just being like, oh, see, I've never been to, first of all, I've never been to an outdoor open football stadium. That was my first time. And I'm on the floor and I'm not that far from the ring, and I get to be there, and I got to watch Jelly Roll perform, and I got to, CM Punk's music hit, and I'm crying at CM Punk coming out because I've never seen CM Punk has been gone the entire time I've been back in wrestling, minus him being in AEW, but I didn't get to see him there,
Yeah.
So I have moments where I really think about it, because I think it's normal for some people to get a little down on yourself too, of like, oh, this isn't going quite the direction I want. You don't stop. You don't stop, but you're like, how can I swerve this? Oh, what do I do different? I don't really like this. And you get down on yourself like, oh gosh, maybe I should quit doing this. And then to have some of the validation or remember where you're headed and what your goal is humbling, to be like, oh no, we're okay. Like, trying to sit with it.
It turns into expectations, right? So I remember my first episode that got 100 views vividly. Like it was a Rams episode. I remember my first one that got 1,000 views. Like this is 2015. Like I remember all of this. And to now, your expectations change as you continue to grow, because then it's like, okay, well, I just put out a video and it only got 30,000 views. That's a failure now. And
Yeah,
that's tough. That is tough to get out of that, because I think
it
there's
is.
a litany of reasons why you feel that way, but
Yeah.
it's your internal expectations that rise, but then it's also external, where people be like, oh, you fell off. Like, oh man, you did poorly. You suck now. And I think that's that can create some like really unhealthy dynamics, even just making your own content and just like putting out stuff and being like, oh man, like not a lot of people are watching. You
Yeah.
know, like I did the international stadium tour this past June. Went down to 10 countries in 5 days. And like, yeah, we got like 30,000 views on some of those. And like halfway through the trip, like I was super down on myself. And I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, and I'm loving the experience. I'm loving meeting the people. I'm going to countries I have never been to before.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's amazing. But then it took a moment of like stepping back and being like, we've already raised $50,000 for charity. Like,
Yeah.
that's a win. Even if it stopped right now, that's money that they didn't have before, right? That is going to help people. And like at the end of the day, it's just having those expectations of what success is. And for you, like, what does success look like for you at this current moment? And what could it look like in the future? Do you go, yep, I got it?
Success for me, I try not to focus because the number thing that's so real. It's
Yeah.
so real. And with us or with me, this happened so quickly. This has been you said been doing this since 2015. I started
Yeah.
beginning of 2023, end of
Which is amazing.
2022. It's fast. So it's very much whiplash of like, you feel like you're constantly getting smacked in the face with a fish of just like, oh, another thing. Oh my
Yep.
God. Now what? But I lost my train of thought.
No,
Look
you're
at
good
that.
about success. And you're saying you're bouncing back and forth nonstop and going like, okay, like this happened in a year and a half. It's gone so fast.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Um, and think of where I'm heading. I think of not just the numbers and
good.
where I am on YouTube or where I am with viewership as far as how all my streams go. I really try to focus now on experiences and like
Yes.
that, like for just myself. Like,
Good.
okay, so I get to go do have this experience, and if I can help out in the world that I'm living in some way, like whether that be with the wrestling business or something else, like that's what I want to focus on. It's put me in this position to be seen and do it.
Yeah.
Like I would like to do it, whether that means my individual platform is growing exponentially or not. Like
Sure.
it doesn't seem to matter that much at this point. There's still people that want to work with me. There's still people that like what I'm doing, and in my space that works. So that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on, not just I want to be the most viewed streamer. It's not
Sure.
that's not where I'm at right now. I don't think that that's an attainable thing to really focus on right now.
Well, it's also like your own personal goals of what you want to get out of it, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, do I want to get to a point where I'm going to be able to have more experiences, right? So whether I'm able to go to more shows or like get interviews or get opportunities that I didn't get before, that could be your success, and views drop off and you're like, I don't care because I'm having the greatest time of my life. Or if you want to pivot and go, you know what? I want to try to hit some of these benchmarks, when it comes to numbers, and I want to get this and I want to get this. It's just a matter of, how you define success, especially within this space. And the best part about it is you get to dictate like what those terms are.
Isn't it cool?
It's pretty damn
Isn't
great.
it cool? There's no like rubric. There's no rule book. There's no guideline. Like I get so much more fulfillment going out in the field and getting
Yep.
to go to the shows and getting to create content in whatever way I want. Because that's the fun thing sometimes about going out in the field is you don't really have a plan.
Yeah.
Someone walks by and you're like, hey,
Hey,
what's up?
you.
How you doing?
Yeah.
You gonna do something? And then it's on the fly and then it happens. And I love just the organic stuff like that.
Yeah, because I mean, the best part about this by far is the people I've met. And whether that has been athletes or whether that has been 30 and 30 or international stadium tour, like, what I mean? Just like meeting fans like everywhere. Like that's been the best part, bar none. Because I love people. People can suck 100%, but people are people. And like just to find those commonalities and go like, okay, cool. Like I'm in a room or I'm in an arena with people who have a shared love for whether it's football, the product, you know what I mean? And that is such a cool community to be a part of, and to also have it be something that you are creating and a space for people to come and, chat about their love of wrestling or football, what have you. Yeah, it's there's nothing that really beats it.
No, Cleveland made me look good, man, because I had a quick meeting there with somebody, and so I got down to the floor, and the minute that I stepped foot on the floor, I had, 4 people in the lower bowl. Weezy.
Let's
There was
go.
someone that walked up to me while I was meeting the person I was meeting that wanted to take a picture. And then as I continued to walk, there were more people that knew who I was. And I wasn't, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that many people to know who I was. I was like, thank you. You're making me look good in front of
You're just
someone.
like, this feels amazing. Good face, good face. Yep. No, it's I think that, regardless of how you're going to define success, I think it's very plain to see that you have obtained a fair amount of it, a really good amount of it. It's been awesome again just to watch. We rated you one random night when we were looking for wrestling streamers to
bring that up. Because
like,
I had just started streaming on YouTube. I didn't know how to use it. I had only done it a few times. And then all these people came and it was a Monday. It was obviously a Monday night.
Yeah.
And I was like, hello? And then they all explained to me and I was like, oh yeah, okay. And honestly, from that point on YouTube, that helped so much.
Yep.
Like, thank you. That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
That really, really helped.
Yeah, I mean, we do it literally every single game stream, and I stream like every single game. So like we do it for smaller creators because again, back when I was coming up, like there was nobody that's really helping me do that. Sports Fury was a great channel that did it to me like when I was years in, and I was like, I love this, and if it can give kind of any boost to folks, that's it, right? Like that's what it's about, like getting this platform and then going, okay, like how can I help people with it now?
And the good people do. I've met a lot of them. A lot of them.
Yeah, so it's awesome. And hey, we've raised over $1,200 tonight, which is awesome for the Riley Children's Foundation. This fundraiser will be open until next Monday. I am so appreciative of you, Weezy, for tuning in, for coming in and chatting for an hour. Where can the people find you and all the things that you do?
You can find me on Instagram and X at itswheezyblonde. It's Weezy Blonde, but with ITS at the beginning. And then you can find me on YouTube and Twitch, where I do all of my live streaming and I have my videos with just Weezy Blonde. Those are the 4 places.
Nailed it. The link tree is in the description, so you can go and click on that, find everything that she does. It's Weezy Blonde. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it, folks. Thank you so much for donating and doing this amazing thing. Raise over $1,200 for a phenomenal organization. I'll see you again tomorrow. Appreciate the hell out of you, folks. I'm Tom Grossi. That's It's Weezy Blonde. And as always, go Pack Go. Nope, ending it before you say